Right, so before we move on, in terms of configuration router 1, let's just do some cleanup procedures here first. So this PC2 is on the 32 network. So you're going to go 192.168.1.32. Right? This is the 32 network here. The network in between the routers, this has its own network by itself. So this is the, and it's variable length. This is the 64 network. And then the network on this side of this router here, which encompasses all of this, is the 96 network. Right? As we see in our notepad file here, we have the 32 network, the 64 network, and the 96 network. So this network on this side here is the 96 network. This network over here. The network in between the routers and so on is the 64 network, and this network over here is the 32 network. So I'm going to take now this rollover cable here, and I'm going to connect it now to router 1 console port. Right? And I'm going to also go now to configure the interface on router 1. Now bear in mind, we're going to configure serial interface first, and then we will also configure the fast Ethernet interface on this side here. So the serial interface will take up on router 1, as we go through here, .65, and the fast Ethernet, which is the default gateway for the PC, would be 97. Alright? So let's begin. So you go to my laptop again, go to terminal, go to OK, and now we are in router 1. Press no. And again, we will use the command enable to get into privilege exec mode. And from that, we go to conft to get into global configuration mode to do whatever configuration we want on this router. And before I begin doing any configuration, I'm going to change the host name of the router to R1. Right? And what we want to do here is to bring up the interface serial 2/0, which you could see here has the clock rate on it. Right? So we'll go to interface configuration 2 serial 2/0 and press enter, and we could see that we are now in interface configuration, and we'll go with an IP address of 192.168.1.65 with a variable length subnet mask 255.255.255 net mask 252. Right? We'll also add a clock rate of 64,000. Right? So you have learned something new here, and we're going to type no shutdown to bring up the line protocol, to bring up the interface. And as you can see, the interface now is up. Right? As we hear now, we're going to exit this interface. Right? And what we're going to do is to configure the fast Ethernet, as we are already in privilege global configuration mode. So I'm going to go to interface fast Ethernet 0/0. Right? Press enter. And I'm going to type an IP address of 192.168.1.97, and I'll double check that by going to my notepad file. Yes, default gateway .97 with a subnet mask or net mask 255.255.255.224. Right? And I also type no shutdown to bring up the line protocol. Right? And you guys, you can see it is up here. So I'm going to exit, and I'm also going to copy run start to save in the NVRAM. Right? So basically, if we were to go to PC1, because we already did PC2, and PC2 was successful in pinging R2 as well as serial interface 2 as well, as we could check it here again, because we did successfully ping 33 and 34. Let's see if PC1 could ping ping.66, which is in its own route, and it was successful. So you'll go back to the routing table in a little while and take a look at it, right? And PC1 should be able to ping fast Ethernet .97 and 65. Let's check it and see, as well as itself. So the command prompt, right? I'm going to ping 192.168.1.98, which is ourself, and we're going to use the loopback to as well. And we're also going to ping 97, which is the default gateway. That was successful. And we're also going to ping 65, which is also a directly connected route, right? But if PC1 try to ping .66, right, it wouldn't get any response, and we'll see why is that it wouldn't get any response. It was going to time out. Let me just take our next laptop because I want to show you all the two configurations, IP route configurations, the routing table. I'll connect this to my console into my router 2 console port. Go to my router 1, go to hyperterminal, right? And I'm going to show an IP route. And as you can see, that on PC1 there's a directly connected route to the 96 network, right? And there's also a connected route to the 64 network, but it's in this routing table would not be able to get to .60 to .65, right? So you'll have to configure static routes in order for PC1 to see this network on this side here, as well as if we go to terminal and we press show IP route, we will see as well as that there is no route that will carry us over to the 96 network, and so on. All right. So the question is, I'm just going to minimize this for a while. What can we do if PC2 wants to ping .65? Right? PC2 wants to ping .65, or PC1 wants to get to the 32 network. So in within R1 routing table, we need a default gateway, because this would need also default gateway to go out of this network. And let me just check my time to make sure that I'm going well, right? So we need to go into router 1 to get access to the 32 network via serial interface 2/0. So I'm going to show you all this one here, and then in the next tutorial I'll show you how we could actually add the IP addresses, right? So for example, I'm going to go back to my to hyperterminal here, and well, it's up already, and I'm going to conf t because I need to get into to global configuration mode, right? And I would need to set up an IP route, because this is router 1, by the way. Make note that this is router 1, right? Laptop 0, router 1. So I'm going to set up an IP route, right? And I want this route to get to the 32 network. I want to get to the 32 network, which has a subnet mask of 255.255.225.224 via serial interface 2/0. So I wanted to go out to that serial interface, and again in another tutorial I'll show you all how you could configure it via the IP address. So I'm going to press enter, right? And if I was to go now to my routing table, show IP route, we should see now that there is a static route set up to go across to my 32 network. So the question is, we could go to PC2, right? And we should be able to ping .65. And it work. Right. Now, I want you all to continue this diagram for me and do the same thing for router 2. So this PC could get access to the 96 network. So because if I was to ping from PC2 to PC1, and I could use it by using this GUI tutorial here to ping here to PC2 to PC1, it will see that it's failed. So you have to set up a static route in R1 as well as in R2. But I'd advise you to watch my other tutorial first on static routes part 2 before you complete this exercise.